What happens in Vegas stays in Vegas, except for your winnings. Those come back with you. What's up, IBT family? We have a huge program playing for you tonight as NASCAR heads to Sin City. We got your best bets and DFS rankings here tonight on the Backroad.
It's a non-points race, but it is a short race. Checkered flag. That's all this race is.
Happy Thursday evening, everybody. This is the Backroad. It's In Between Media's Fantasy NASCAR betting show. My name's Elliot Hicks. Boy, I'm glad to be back. It's been an exciting couple of weeks of racing. But, of course, our guy Seth Woolcock has had it all covered. And our guest tonight, we're happy to have Tino Pattigno here, guest contributor for Sirius XM NASCAR Radio, host of Front Stretches Through the Gears podcast. And, hey, from the first 5 minutes of conversation we've had, really fun, really cool analyst, good race fan. We're excited to have you on tonight, Tino.
Thanks for having me, guys. Couldn't be more excited to break down everything Vegas. I mean, you can't get much better than that, right?
Dude, you've got the outfit for it this week, too, with that gold jacket, man. Go ahead, Seth.
Yeah. I am absolutely hammered up, ready to go. I broke out a fresh rack of Busch Light for tonight, so feeling good there. And not only do we have the first mile and a half of the season, we can really lay out some bets and have some confidence going into the weekend, but also we have the most Italian-looking motherfucker from Staten Island here on the program tonight. So, Tino, how Italian are you, my friend?
I'm actually not as Italian as you would think.
Wow.
So, yeah, the name's Tino Pattigno, but I'm actually Colombian, which you would not be able to tell either from my appearance here. We'll say I'm 1% just to keep the Italians out there, happy, and we're doing some of this here too. So
there you go.
But not too much. I mean, the Tino Pattigno you would think, but yeah.
There we go. Elliot, how are you feeling as we head to Vegas, man? It's been a couple of wild super speedway races, and now we get back to the good old mile and a halves.
Yeah, I mean, it really feels like the real start of the season. We had our fun with the super speedways. It's going to be curious to see if some of these super speedway performances can carry over or not to the real racetracks, we'll call them. But hey, something reminds me of, this 3 wide we got going here. Reminds me of our finish from last week at Atlanta. Let's take a look back in the rear view. So the Ambetter Health 400, where else to start but that finish? Daniel Suarez getting the win over Kyle Busch and Ryan Blaney in what a lot of people are calling one of the better races in the next-gen era and one of the best races I've seen in a long time, boys.
And, I think we kind of started to see this in 2022 or 2023 a little bit with this Atlanta. That rain-shortened race back in July was freaking awesome. But we kind of just thought, okay, the pressure was on, the stakes were higher, shorter race. That wasn't the case, though, man. We saw a great race all around. And I think that finish actually kind of overshadows a little bit how much that race was overall, how good it was. Like Austin Cindric maybe had the move of the race, putting them 4 wide. Kyle Busch shoots up the gap, follows him right up there. So, Tino, what was your thoughts on that electric race? I know you had a reaction video live on Twitter as well.
Yeah, my reaction video went crazy, and for good reason, right? I mean, what was it? 3 1,000ths of a second that finish between first and second, and even Kyle Busch was like 7 1,000ths as well, and he finished in third. I mean, overall, this is a contender for race of the year, and it's obviously only the second race. So to me, that gets me excited about the entire season. I think the racing product and the Atlanta track is finally becoming what everyone wanted it to be, right? We're seeing 4 wide passes, not only for the lead, but consistently during that race. Great racing. And I think a big thing to note too is these Cup drivers are so talented. We saw the trucks in Xfinity race, nowhere near Cup level. And I think that just goes to show how skilled they are. The tire wear was a factor, and there wasn't that many wrecks either. Perfect race from Atlanta last weekend.
Yeah, it really was a spectacular race there. And man, that finish too, you could tell when they're coming through 3 and 4, they're all 3 wide. There's no help. It's like, oh boy, we're going to have something special here. Just those first couple of seconds. And for a guy like Daniel Suarez, I mean, obviously Blaney's a defending champion. Kyle Busch one of the best racers ever. If anyone really needed that win, it was Daniel Suarez. There hasn't been anything put out from Trackhouse that has said, we're worried about this guy or whatever, but you just look at the writing on the wall. Chastain's ripped off a couple of wins, made a championship 4. You've got Zane Smith in Cup this year, one of the prospects in the pipeline. Shane Van Gisbergen is running Xfinity full-time.
Top 3 last week for SVG too.
SVG.
That is true. Yeah, so Suarez, you never were quite sure. He goes out and gets that win. I want to hear from you guys of what this could mean for Daniel Suarez's future, and then I'll play a little bit of devil's advocate after that.
Well, we even saw Daniel on Dale Jr. Download this week, and Daniel said he was feeling the pressure. The team was feeling the pressure, especially being in the garage stall next to one of Ross Chastain, that 4 wins over the next gen era, been super consistent at tracks like Las Vegas here that we're heading to this weekend. So the pressure was on. There was a crew chief change made over the offseason, and I think vibes are high now overall. We kind of had the debate heading into the season, Elliot, with Full Tank Phil. What is this Trackhouse team now? Are they diversified, like you said, or are they discombobulated, like Phil was more claiming? So I think we see Daniel Suarez locked into Trackhouse. It's just a matter, is it going to be this 99 car? Is it going to be the top car that he has now? Because like you said, SVG's there and Zane Smith as well. Tino, your thoughts?
Yeah, I think you hit it right on the head there. And also, I want to touch on what Daniel said in his post-race press conference. To me, the biggest thing that stood out to me was the fact that he wasn't necessarily satisfied with this win either.
Yeah.
He went on record of saying, this is a great win, great confidence, great team booster, but he doesn't want to stop there. He doesn't want people to be surprised when he does win races. And that mentality, to me, goes a long way, at least the way I look at his situation right now. And, Trackhouse says they want to keep him on the team, but obviously, like you guys mentioned, SVG, Zane Smith, the charters and the cars are piling up for them.
Yeah.
Can they be a 4-car team? And I think if Suarez continues to grow and perform consistently this season, he can do so, and he definitely has the right mentality, saying he wants to continue to win races. He's not satisfied with just one win. He's probably in the playoffs, yes, but if he can make it multiple rounds and ultimately maybe a round of 8 guy, I think then he really gets off the hot seat and confirms his future with Trackhouse.
Yeah, I mean, every year in the playoffs, you have the guys who can win the title. You have the guys who you think can win the title. There's always one or two that's like, this guy he's an afterthought. He's going to get bounced right away. I can see Suarez's motivation to not have him be one of those guys. And, you mentioned the post-race press conferences. Justin Marks went on record to say, hey, we like Daniel. We haven't thought about getting rid of him necessarily. He's one of our guys. We want him to be a Trackhouse guy. But I don't know how much truth there is behind that. Zane Smith has gone out. He's done well in the Truck Series. He's in Cup if he performs well. If Shane Van Gisbergen continues to look at least competitive on ovals, maybe rips out a couple of road course wins, maybe there's just not enough room there for Suarez. Charters are hella expensive, as we've seen. When a guy like Dale Earnhardt Jr. can't or won't get into Cup racing because of the charter price, we got something valuable here. So, Seth, obviously, we talk a lot of NFL on this site and all the other team sports. Obviously, the teams are a little bit differently organized in NASCAR, but you see a lot of trades. You see a lot of players go somewhere for particular assets, whether it be a prospect or an even player trade in that case, or things like that. This is something you don't really see in NASCAR, but I think this could be really interesting for a guy like Daniel Suarez, because you have obviously limited number of full-time cars there. When these prospects, Zane Smith and SVG, move forward, they need the Cup rides. Could you then grab a hot Toyota prospect or hot Ford prospect or even a different Chevy prospect, pull them into your pipeline by moving Suarez to an open Cup seat? I feel like it could be something interesting to watch down the road. Trackhouse continues to build their future. They get another manufacturer prospect. An open Cup ride gets a pretty good driver in Daniel Suarez, who can bring your team some value. I don't think it's not quite as unfathomable as we've seen. If anybody's going to go out there and do unfathomable things, I would say it's Trackhouse.
Yeah, Justin Marks a little bit of a fucking wild card. I think we know that, folks. Looking, just kind of closing the door here on Atlanta at the betting cards. Tino and I were on the opposite sides of Daniel Suarez there. I was riding the Kyle Busch 16-1, got down really early on the week on that. I was hoping, I was praying. He got back on the lead lap there. Had to put the back tire or the front tire to someone to do it, but still, I was really happy with the overall performance. We kind of lucked out. Like Sunday morning, Larson, I don't know if you guys caught it, but pretty much all his matchups got super juiced towards Larson. I was able to get Blaney at plus money, Busch close to plus money, and like taking those guys and Chevy at plus 185, because that went up quite a bit as well. like pretty much saved my weekend. I went to over 2.5 units positive, but could have been a huge weekend for me. Tino, how was your betting card?
Could have been better. That Blaney. See, I had Blaney to win the race outright at 10-1,
Okay.
and I also had Ford as the winning manufacturer.
Oh.
I believe I got that at plus 280. So obviously a double, there. Another one that I had, which is funny that we both had Kyle Busch and Ryan Blaney in this instance. I had Blaney head-to-head over Larson, a Kyle Busch head-to-head over Martin Truex Jr. So I mean, those guys finished second and third, right? I put them in a parlay together. The third leg, Denny Hamlin over William Byron. Denny finished
Close.
23rd and Byron in 17th. And Denny was there. Like, Denny had a car capable of winning that race. He was involved in like three wrecks and still powered his way through. And then on the last one, he gets like barely clipped and it destroys the front end of his car. So that one hurt me a little bit. I think I had a Cindric top 10. That was at plus money as well. A Blaney top 5. So ultimately a few units up maybe, but not as much as it could have been, with those 3 1,000ths of 100ths of a thousandth of a second.
Yeah, absolutely. Hopefully we can get a little more normal of an ending here this week in Las Vegas. Elliot, put the final closing notes on Atlanta if you have anything to add.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I'm pretty good with Atlanta. It's time to get to, like I said, the start of the real racing season with the 1.5 miles. And take a look at the horizon forecast for Vegas this weekend.
Hey, Michael, it was only 20% chance of rain. I think we got all 20.
All right, so we are in Las Vegas this weekend for the Pennzoil 400. Let's break the track down a little bit here, Seth.
Yeah, so we're looking at intermediate, as we mentioned earlier in the show. An iFantasy race, they kind of define it as historically tire wear has not been a factor, but as we continue to run here, it's becoming more of a factor. And track position, that's going to be key for us this weekend. That's what we're looking for. And while I didn't want to have a ton of units in before qualifying and practice, because we do get a little practice this weekend, not so the case, but we can look at some of these other high-speed 1.5 mile tracks like Kansas, like Michigan, Charlotte, Texas. But really, Las Vegas, in a way, is a pretty unique track. And there are drivers who definitely have a leg up in it. So I definitely weighed the 2 Las Vegas races from last year, the heaviest in my model, and a little bit from 2022 as well. And then, like, obviously, I'm factoring in those other high speeds. But overall, like Las Vegas, Tino, I think it's one of those tracks that there's just guys who know how to run it.
Yeah, definitely. And one of them being Kyle Larson, right? I mean,
yeah.
And especially at tracks too, like you mentioned, Kansas in the last 6 races, Kyle Larson has led 475 laps. He's dominated at tracks, not only being Las Vegas, but the other tracks that you mentioned that are similar, Kansas, Michigan, those types of drivers. Denny Hamlin and Kyle Larson are the main 2 that stuck out when I was looking and doing my research there, and the stats, the average finishes, laps led, wins, all of that, top 10s as well. But to me, it's like, I think the major thing, and we could probably get into this more later, but it's going to be the new bodies of the Fords and the Toyotas. Yep. Do they have what it takes to match up with the Chevys in Hendrick Motorsports and Kyle Larson? We'll see.
Yeah. And Elliot, I think this is honestly a really interesting weekend in general for sports betting as we kind of head here to Las Vegas. Not only do we have F1 coming back, so we're going to get some different cross sports parlays possibly, but we have the trucks on Friday night, I think where they belong, where they're best. And hey, man, I've been diving into the NFL Combine props like a mother effer this last week as well. So lot of units out there in general. But when you're looking at getting practice and qualifying back, does that give you more confidence this week?
Definitely. I mean, any sort of laps these guys can get out on the track are good. It prevents those issues. You get at least a little bit of time to see, okay, this guy's maybe got a little speed in there other than just in qualifying trim. And the nice part about the 1.5 miles is there's a lot of comparables like you were talking about, your Kansases, your Texas, your Charlottes, even your Michigans, the bigger ones. So they're a little easier to handicap, at least compared to the super speedways where anybody can finish anywhere. Short tracks, oftentimes you have your teams that are really good, teams that are not good. You got a lot of variety here to figure out who's going to be good. But there are guys who are better at some of these tracks than others, and I think we got one of those in our Asterisk Smart Driver of the Week.
Yes, yeah. Let's throw that Asterisk Driver of the Week up, and that is from iFantasyRace.com. If you guys have not checked it out, please go over there at iFantasyRace.com. This is where we get like almost, I would say 99% of our data. Driver averages, we have a different site for that. Everything else we're getting over there. Ryan stuff is very sharp. He's got everything from your total speed rankings to your loop data, to hell, the schedule for the weekend. He's got it over there at ifantasyrace.com. So check him out. He is highlighting none other than your guy here, Elliot, Alex Bowman. Bowman, we know he won this race kind of surprisingly a couple of years ago, was a top 10 contender here last year. However, on lap 145, while running inside the top 10, Bowman gets into the wall, pretty much ends his race there, but he was 12th in the total speed rankings. I think there's a lot of Alex Bowman love out in the industry in general this weekend. Tino, are you excited about Alex Bowman here, especially after hearing this from iFantasy Race?
Oh, I definitely am. Thank you to iFantasy Race for that. And Alex Bowman, 2 top 3s in the last 4 Las Vegas races. To me, that's something that stands out in this one. And his value is there too. I mean, yes, he has had a struggling start, I guess, last season. And then, when he was injured and everything like that, he started off last season great though. In the beginning of the year, he was leading the points at one point. And now looking ahead at this season, finished second in the Daytona 500 there. Big confidence boost for him. Could have been first, obviously we saw with the scoring there and everything like that. But to me, Alex Bowman is this is where I think he needs to have a strong run, and he is capable of doing so. I don't think many people are counting him as a person to win this race, and I think he can. I think he has the Hendrick Motorsports equipment to do so, obviously, but also Chevys have been strong at this track, and especially if he was running inside. I remember that race last year. I was actually there when he was running inside the top 10. He was plus money to do so.
Yeah,
like you said,
we were
and then
on
he gets in an accident. Yeah, exactly. So I expect him to go out and have a strong run at Vegas this weekend for sure.
Elliot, any final notes for you on the 48?
Yeah, people forget he also could have easily won the race in spring 2020, just before COVID happened.
Oh, that's right.
I forget if he took 2 tires and everyone else took 4, or he took 4, somebody else took 2. Logano ends up winning that race. And also the 48 team performed pretty well here when Noah Gragson had to substitute for him at the end of 2022.
Good point. Like 11th or something?
Yeah, somewhere in the top 15. So it shows that it's not just the guy behind the wheel, it's that this 48 team does have a pretty good setup nailed down. So it'll be fun to watch. We know that would be a popular win on this show.
Looks like we got Royal in the chat saying, "Evening, Seth. Good to see you, Royal. Thanks so much for, he's a golf guy, so he's getting into the NASCAR streets. He's actually a fan who started watching through Full Speed. So excited to have Royal in the chat tonight. And also Miami Mike, a little Bowman love from Miami Mike. Good to see you, Mike. Thanks for tuning in with us. I do want to throw out a couple trends before we jump into our rankings for the week. We have 7 active poll winners here. There's 3 drivers that have 2 active polls right now, Rowdy, Seabell, and Logano. However, there's only 1 driver in the history of NASCAR with 3 polls at this track. That's old Casey Kane in that number 9 car, and then later with Hendrick. And speaking of Hendrick, they haven't actually won the pole since 2015, which is actually kind of crazy when you think about this, because they've won 3 of the last 4 at Las Vegas. Joe Gibbs Racing has won 2 of the last 4 poles in the next gen. That's going to be Christopher Bell who's doing that. And then second place has won 18.75% of the time. And the winners coming from the top 10, 60% of the time. So as iFantasy Race put out there, track position is going to be very, very crucial. And Kyle Larson also leads all-time drivers with 4 runners up. Dale Jr. is the only one with above 3. So good to see that. Miami Mike saying, what about Kyle Busch, the hometown kid? We're going to talk a lot about Kyle Busch, Miami Mark. Buckle in, my friend. Buckle in, because Kyle Busch is going to be a buzzword tonight, man. Elliot, anything else you have to add before we go ahead and jump into the tire tiers?
No, I think we're ready to jump in. Shout out to all the new fans coming over. I tell you what, I got to start watching Bo and Connor's golf show. It seems like you guys are making some big bank over there.
Hey, Jake Knapp, 44-1 last week, baby. At least I had golf to fall back on after that shit show of the end of last week. So you are right.
Yeah, and hey, we like to think we're a good source for NASCAR bets. So anyone coming over from there, thankfully you're giving this a try. We want to win you some more cash. Of course we do. But all right, we're going to start doing that by looking at our DFS tire tiers. I'll brighten myself up, and then we'll be back to rank everyone for the week. All right, so the entry list this week, fairly normal. It's our 36 chartered cars, as well as JJ Yaley in the New York Racing number 44. Seth, I know you're such a fan of the NY Racing team. In the 15 car, it's Kaz Gralla. In the Colleague 16, it's Derek Kraus.
Listen, all I got to say about the 44 team, is I apologize to Beard Motorsports. A year ago on this very program, I said, Beard Motorsports, they're fucking money launderers. No, it actually turns out JJ Yaley, or not JJ Yaley, but the team it didn't even pay Greg Biffle last year. So no love for the 44. We're not.
You have to have the money to be money launderers, and they could. If you can't pay the Biff man, I mean, what hope do you have, right?
Yeah. So I'm just gonna say right now, unless Tino comes in with some crazy stat, I ain't fucking ranking the 44. It ain't happening. They're not on the board.
Yeah. Hey,
not even on the board. I like that.
Yeah, we like to talk about every driver. There's our 44 out of the way, and now we'll get to the cars that'll actually win you some money.
Yeah, Tino, start us out, man. Who do you like as the 101 this week? Looking at salary pricing from both DraftKings and/or Fantrax.
Well, to me, this is a tough one here because we want to get him for good value as well. I mean, we mentioned Bowman before. I think that can fall into a category where, as an underdog, could potentially make us some good profit in this one. I don't know. Are we going straight for the A tier right off the bat? Are we talking A first?
Yeah. Go ahead.
A first.
A tier, but it doesn't have to necessarily be a driver that is priced in the A tier. So whoever you think is your automatic can't miss this week.
All right, well, if we're going automatic, then that's Kyle Larson. I think, he may be expensive and everything, but I think that's the closest thing to a guarantee that we can see in NASCAR. And I hate throwing that word out there, guarantee, because obviously we've seen everything that can happen in NASCAR racing, but sure. Kyle Larson's stat back it up here. And I think if we're going a nice and easy A tier, it's got to be the 5 car.
And I think that 11,000 price tag actually over there on DK Elliott could chase some people out. So I don't think it's going to be as chalky as you think, at least on DraftKings this week.
Yeah, no, I think that price definitely will scare some people away. I'm going to go a little lower on the price board for my pick. Kyle Busch, a very reasonable 9,700, at least compared to Larson. There's quite a few guys ahead of him. And I mean, I won't shut up about Kyle Busch. I wrote about him in my Between Bets column that came out earlier today on the website, inbetweenmedia.com. The stats here is just how can you not love Kyle Busch for the week? I've got some on the paper here that were from the article. The one I'll use here, his top 5 rate for his career is 48% at Vegas, and he's had top 10 finishes 60% of the time here. We know he loves winning in his hometown. He's only done it once in the Cup Series, done it multiple times in the lower series. We know he wants to take these Childress boys to victory lane at home. Kyle Busch is definitely my favorite pick of the week.
We got Derek here in the chat saying, great show, boys. Good to see you, Derek. Thanks for tuning in, buddy. And then Stan saying, we haven't been to a, quote, real track yet. With the aero changes into the manufacturers, aren't we just guessing at this point? Stan, I really thought about this earlier this week, and I honestly thought the same thing as you. I was like, man, I don't think I'm going to go that heavy this week and maybe just let it play out. But, dude, this is one of those tracks. We have really good track history on a lot of these drivers still in the next-gen era. And while the manufacturers, the changes to both the Toyota and the Ford Dark Horse over there, it made a difference, I think, in those first 2 races, but it didn't change everything. This is still a next gen Cup Series car, so I think we do have some accurate information. Elliot, any thoughts there for our guy Stan?
Yeah, the only thing I have to add is even when we switched over to the next gen car, the guys who were still good are still good. So obviously, if one of the manufacturers really misses it, then that's one thing that'll hopefully be enough in practice and qualifying that you can know, maybe the Fords or the Toyotas, the Chevys just don't have it this week.
Yeah, that's a good point. Tino, are you scared at all of a manufacturer because of the new bodies here?
I wouldn't say scared necessarily, but it's definitely something to be aware of, right? Like, I think that's a great point by Stan is, but there are, so he mentioned the 2 manufacturers. Well, there's one that hasn't changed at all, and that's Chevy. And we have the stats to back it up here. We're getting back to tracks where stats do matter after the first 2 super speedway races. So I think we can go Chevy heavy in this race here. And also a driver like Christopher Bell, he's racing for Toyota, and they struggled on some 1.5-mile tracks last year in the intermediates at some points. Yeah, we saw, Kansas have some success there for drivers like Tyler Reddick, Denny Hamlin, but those are guys that are consistently fast and know how to save their manage their tires the best. So I think for Christopher Bell in this one, he's a great example of we know he's going to perform well here. I think if their package is completely off with this new body, that's going to be a problem for like someone like him, where we know he can go out and perform at this track because he has, I think, probably the best stats to go off of out of all the Toyota drivers for this one.
Yeah.
Seth, what do you think? Should we throw Bell up in the A's while we have the?
Yeah, I'm going to talk way too much about Christopher Bell later in the program. So please throw him up there. I do want to say shout out Stan, though. Stan is one of our longest time listeners here on the back road. So, always popping in with that sweet little baby boy picture he's got here on YouTube. So we appreciate you, Stan. Yeah, I don't need to say anything more on Chris Bell. I'll talk a lot about him in the betting segment. But you did steal my pick. So, God damn it, Elliot. Give me Ross Chastain, 9,100. How can you go wrong with Ross Chastain? Dude, I feel like vibes are just super high in that camp right now altogether. And when you look at what Ross Chastain has done at this track, in the next gen total speed rankings, he's 3 coming from iFantasy Race, and then finishes at Las Vegas in the next gen include 5th, 12th, 2nd, and 3rd. Like, he didn't have a ton of speed last year. He was kind of hanging out towards the back of the top 10. But he drove up. He had the late run speed, and that's kind of what you're looking for here. So, yeah, I'm going to go Ross Chastain. I have a lot of decisions in a couple lineups whether I want to go Ross Chastain as my driver 2 or Kyle Busch, and I'm really struggling with that fact. So that's how much I like him here, boys.
Yeah, I mean, that's not a bad pick at all. I think Ross is definitely interesting to watch and pretty good price there. All right, Tino, we'll throw it back to you. Who else you like in this A tier?
So I think we talking about drivers who are consistently fast, at these types of tracks, but someone who stands out to me who was fast at Las Vegas last year was William Byron. I think he's worthy of an A tier, and if I didn't pick him in an A tier, he'd probably go out and win the race because he's done that to me so many times where, not that I would forget about him, but I was like, oh, they have Kyle Larson, they have Chase Elliott, they have all these drivers at Hendrick Motorsports, but William Byron is the driver, at least last year, who had the best season, 6 wins, and Vegas, he won there as well. So to me, he's been able to lead laps consistently there and showed a lot of speed at that type of racetrack, at least last season. So Willie B, I feel like for me, has got to be an A tier here.
I'm always a week too early on Willie B. Elliot knows this. I cannot get this guy right. The only time I feel like I've ever made money is when we were there in Pocono and he won the pole for us, Elliot. That was like the only time. And I played him everywhere. I played him up. He was like $27 on fucking Fan Tracks and I ate it. And yeah, so I'm good on Willie B this week, but he'll probably come out and win it now because you said that, Tino.
Yep.
Elliot,
I like Byron a lot this week too. He was probably who I was going to throw up on the board. And we thought last year was the breakout year from William Byron. Had a boatload of wins, ends up doing well in the playoffs. We could see more from Byron this year. I'll talk a little bit of crap on Chase Elliott a little later if he's still on the board. But maybe we're continuing to see Byron climb this ladder at Hendrick Motorsports, go out there and become almost as dominant as one of his predecessors, Jeff Gordon, was in that 24 back in the day. You never know.
Yeah, he's
That's
fucking doing it.
But in lieu of that, I will throw up Martin Truex Jr. in the A tier. Truex, another guy who's performed consistently well at Vegas. 62% top 10 rate, which I also looked up for the Between Bets article. Go and read that for some extra thoughts on some of these guys. He's at a decent price of $9,300. And like I was saying earlier, I forget if we were live yet or not. We've had 2 really exciting races for the drivers, for the fans coming over from the Netflix series NASCAR Full Speed. And, we know it from years of watching that occasionally on some of these mile and a halves, you get some real snooze fest where guys just go out the gigantic leads, end up leading a ton. One guy leads a ton of laps, wins the race. Nobody seems more apt to do that than Martin Truex Jr. in this 19 car.
Yeah. No, I can't fault you. I think the upside, I don't know if he has quite the upside as the rest of this A tier. Like, I don't know if he can actually go out and win this thing, but we've seen him do it before at these mile and a halves. Looks like we got Eric in the chat. What's up, Eric? Good to see you, man. And Stan's saying, by the way, that baby boy picture, Lil Stan, 1972 edition. Love it, man. Love it. Yeah, should Denny Hamlin be in? I think Denny Hamlin should be in this top tier. I know he's expensive too at 10.7. Hasn't quite had the finishes that we've been looking for lately at Las Vegas here, but he's still second in the total speed rankings at this style of high speed intermediate track. So give me some Denny Hamlin. I think he's going to be safe. He's another guy I don't think who can necessarily win the race, but I mean, I'll bet my house that he's going to be a top 10 driver.
I like that. I like that top 10. I like that top 10. Bet your house on it, Denny Hamlin. I'm with that one.
What else you got, Tino? Anyone else you think you can make the case for A, or you think we got to drop down to B's?
See, that's what I was curious. Like Denny and MTJ were like to me, definitely A tier. And now that I look on the board, only 2 drivers that I'm considering for the A tier right now. And I want to see what you guys think as well. So that would be
Yeah.
Joey Logano and Ryan Blaney. Like, I would favor Logano over Blaney, but that's even if they make it there. Like, I think I'm kind of satisfied with the A tier. Joey, to me, okay, so now I picked out of the 2 of them. I think Joey would perform better than Blaney, or at least he has in the past. If we want to go B, I think B would be nice for the both of them. I like that because we haven't, especially with this new body for the Fords, right? Like we saw, now I'll mention this, Brad Keselowski last race at Las Vegas, he showed a lot of speed leading that race, and RFK, I expect to be faster as they were in Michigan and Kansas, led legitimate laps. And the Penske drivers as well, but with this new body, I need to be a little bit more patient with the Fords. 2 super speedway races, we can't really determine, how much these cars have changed. Drivers like MTJ, Hamlin, Christopher Bell in the new bodies with the Toyotas, but it's because of who they are, right? We expect them to be racing at least inside the top 10 throughout this entire race, regardless of what body the drivers are racing in for the Toyotas. These 2 Fords, I think they can be impacted, and they're hit or miss, right? We saw Blaney dominate the Coke 600 last year, and then was nowhere to be found at Kansas in the playoffs. So that's what I'm thinking for them.
I think you're dead on. It was Full Tank with Phil over here on the IBT Media YouTube channel earlier this week on the NASCAR betting preview show, who said, hey, man, when we used to go to Las Vegas, it was like an auto click that you would be betting on the Penske cars. That's not really the case in the next gen era. So I think B is like a very good place for them. There are other guys I just don't think have the upside, Elliot.
Yeah, and with their prices too, Blaney is at 10.2, Logano at 10,000. If it was 9,200, 9,000, they're probably A tier. This is just a little higher than I like it.
Yep.
But we'll see how they do practice qualifying. If we see the Fords go out and spank them, then they could definitely be worth that A tier pricing. But also then their odds are going to shift a little bit. So be careful of that as well.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, I'll close out the Hendrick book here. Obviously, you guys can share some thoughts. I'm going to put Bowman ahead of Chase Elliott for the week just because of the pedigree. And, I've got the nice little Ally purple tinted fandom glasses on there. But with Chase Elliott, he's at 9,800. I think that's an overvalued price. He has had the success here before, but for Chase, and I think I talked about this on our season preview show, it's still a what have you done for me lately? And, he's not the best super speedway racer, but he didn't really impress at either Daytona or Atlanta. And we still are waiting to see Chase Elliott fully come back from this injury, come back out, be a dominant guy, top 5, top 10, week in, week out guy. Until I see it, I'm going to be a little sketchier on this 9 team. Yeah,
dude, I mean, it's crazy to see what he is just being hung out there by the books. Like a couple of years ago, you'd say, man, if I saw that, I'd have to bet, 16-1 or whatever it is. And like, you just haven't seen it, dude. Like, but besides him kind of getting close at Chicago Street, if things went his way, like he really hasn't been in races. He hasn't been leading laps. Sometimes it's bad luck, but until I see it, I'm good fading Chase Elliott for the price tag. What about Bubba Wallace? I think he belongs here. I would put him above Chase, to be honest with you. Bubba Wallace, when you were looking at these next gen total speed rankings at this track, Bubba doesn't necessarily jump off the page at 10, but then you look at this style of racing, man, he loves these high speed mile and a halves. Where is Bubba great at? Kansas, Charlotte. Those are kind of the tracks, Texas, that kind of stick out to you. Las Vegas is kind of like their little brother. It's not necessarily right at it, but Bubba Wallace in this style of track on the iFantasy Racing high speed total speed rankings, he's 7th as well. So I'm going to trust those. I'm going to put Bubba Wallace here. Really nice, I think, little leverage piece down there. People have been going hard after him at the super speedways the last couple of weeks. So 8,700. Sign me up for Bubba Wallace in a lot of leagues.
I like that a lot, especially with the momentum they have in the 23 team, right?
2 top fives.
Top fives. Yep,
yeah,
exactly. Yeah. That's why I like Bubba to actually go out and potentially win this as well. His value is there on the board. I believe 19-1 to win outright, from betting standpoint there. And that's just something I was considering as well. So B tier for Bubba, I definitely agree with for that one.
Yeah, absolutely. What else you got here for us, Tino?
Another one I could see is a Brad Keselowski, and I think we alluded to it before. I'm not sure his price right now. I don't have that pulled up, so if you guys could check me on that, if it's worthy of a B tier.
8.5, yeah.
I think that's fair. I think, and so what do you guys think about him going out and potentially winning this? Right, like to me, I was on him for back-to-back super speedways, and so it's like, okay, could this happen here? I was encouraged to think that with how they performed in the last Vegas race, leading, was in their top 5 car. But now it's like with the bodies again, that's kind of the drawback for me. It's like, okay, I need to see how they are in practice and qualifying, especially. Luckily, we do get that for this weekend.
Yeah.
We get that opportunity to sort of adjust if we need to, but at least a B tier for Brad. I think that could be good for us.
I think you put it on the head there, Tino. Like, Brad Keselowski is a guy I'm going to have to be watching and qualifying in my early lineups this week that I'm locking in. Probably not going to have him in there. But when you look at what he did, like, he was dog shit, absolute dog shit here at Las Vegas in 2022. Top 20 or outside the top 25 in the total speed rankings. Comes back last year, 11th in the spring race, and then 4th in the total speed rankings here in the fall. Had a really, really nice run. He was on kind of a run there, Elliot, at those 1.5 miles late in the year. We hadn't seen that a lot from the RFK camp, but they really got on it. Again, I'm done chasing the ghost of Brad Keselowski to win, but I don't mind him as a DFS leverage option, like Tino said.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. He seems like a really good driver too, if you want to even take the reach and pick one of these guys as your main guy. I was just thinking a little bit about RFK. When are we going to see them get picked here early, or were they going to drop kind of down to where their mean was last year around the driver, late Bs, early Cs, even the Ds some weeks? I agree with you. Seeing Keselowski go to victory lane, I think, is only a pipe dream for the super speedways now. He's got all the responsibilities for an owner. It's hard for owner drivers to win. Not that he can't do it, but I think yeah, right. We're much more likely to see Chris Buescher go to victory lane, if anybody. We saw his hot run in the summer last year. And hey, Seth, all I'm doing here is following our RFK rule. Is if you could put one on the board, you got to put the other on pretty soon after.
Yeah, they're generally pretty damn close. And Buescher was running pretty good at different times the last couple of weeks. Didn't kind of come to fruition. Wrecked out of last week. But yeah, I don't mind those guys. I think we can probably pretty confidently, in my opinion, drop down to the C's if you guys are cool with that. And I'm doing it. I'm going back to my dirty little secret, Austin Cindric. Throw him on the fucking board. I'm hooked. I'm back. Listen, I came into this season throwing so much shade at this motherfucker. It was unreal. I loved him in 2022. We made a lot of money on him late in that season and then just could not get it done. This guy has come in, had a really, really nice run last week, was leading laps at Daytona, and finished 6th in this race a year ago. I think people forget about that. Austin Cindric, sneaky good at Vegas. I have a bet for him later. I'll tell you more about him, but give me my dirty little secret here, boys.
Yeah, this is a heck of a move for you, Seth, after we basically...
It's a heel turn.
Off the board. Cindric is my guy so far this year where it's like, is he good now, or did we just race on 2 super speedways?
Yeah.
He's good there. We'll have to wait and see.
I like him at Vegas. Next week at Phoenix, like miss me on it. I don't think you'll be ranked for me, but yeah. Tino, who you got here for C's?
I think just based off of speed and their who they're driving for, and also the type of driver he is, Tyler Reddick, I think should be in the C tier here. I was honestly considering him potentially for a B.
Yeah.
But I don't think he's had the speed, at least at Vegas specifically, to really prove to me that he belongs there, or at least prove to me to bet on him, use him in fantasy, or anything like that. I think he's right now average. I need him to prove something to me. Hey, maybe the new body can play into his favor. He is really good. I'll say this. He's one of the best drivers, like a Larson or a Hamlin, at managing his tire wear and being able to get the most out of the car, run the high line and stuff like that. But I think C tier fits Reddick in this one.
Yeah, with Reddick, his price this week at 8,900 is a little too high for me. But, he's definitely got the talent to go out there and do it. I like the other monster car, Ty Gibbs in the 54, a little bit better. Obviously, we know Gibbs has run good here before. If the Toyotas are on, I expect Ty Gibbs to be on too. And at a price of 7,600, I like it a hell of a lot more in the C.
Yeah. I like Daniel Suarez as well, Elliot. Throw him up there, 7,800. He was a really nice leverage option. I threw in a bunch of DraftKings lineups last week, and the only ones that cashed at all were the ones that had Suarez. And he hasn't been amazing here at Vegas, but Trackhouse in general has speed here. So I'll take Daniel Suarez there. And can you guys talk me out of it? Because I'm thinking right now, like there's one name that's kind of standing out that I think belongs in the C's, and maybe it's just the narrative, but Noah Gragson, Vegas kid, comes home. Can you give me a little Noah Gragson love? Guy has been elite here in Xfinity. We don't know what the hell he's going to do here. But I don't know. This whole SHR camp's in the fucking hole after getting docked. How many penalties? Like a shit ton? Like 30 points each, I think. So
Something like that, and that's always. I feel like that's always happening to them, right? Then same thing happened last year with Chase Briscoe, and they had to win a race. I hate it for that camp because it's like fresh faces this year. You expect them to. I mean, I don't really. You're expecting the unexpected from them, right? It's like, okay, what can they do now? Harvick's gone, and I expected not for them to be great, but to at least surprise me in some instances. And I like this Gregson pick here to do it. But like you said, the penalty, I feel like it just brings down the camp as a whole.
yeah, it's maybe he's the start of the D's, Elliot. Maybe we do another drop down here. Maybe we put
Yeah, I don't hate him for the C's because I had another guy I was thinking of the season
Okay.
that SHR camp, Josh Berry in the 4. He's obviously super speedways have never quite been his thing. He didn't look half bad at Atlanta, but he's won twice here in Xfinity in Vegas. So if you're talking about guys translating from JRM Xfinity success to Stewart Haas Cup success, this 4 team with Rodney Childers could be the team to do it. But I mean, with SHR, I mean, are we going to have them even in an A or a B for the foreseeable future? You know, it used to be we'd have Harvick up there, then a big drop, and then everybody else. Now there's no more Harvick, like you guys were saying.
You could play Almirola at certain tracks too. Like he was at New Hampshire every fucking year. You know, you're gonna throw him out maybe at Martinsville a couple times, but Spry Sheep saying here in the chat now all of us have more points than Noah Gragson. Yeah, that's terrible, dude. He was getting off to a good start. Like at least let it happen to the 41 car and I don't know. And the 41, I don't know. The 41's just the dog shit car this year, I think, out of that camp. But
I think they all make the dog shit cars. Be careful.
Yeah. Tino, anyone else you can make the case for C's, or you want to drop to the D's?
Looking at the board, I feel like I think it's definitely time for the D's. I mean, there's no one at least that we have left stand out to me. I do like a sneaky Justin Haley or an Eric Jones, but that would be like my first D's at least on the board here for one of those guys.
I don't mind Eric.
Yeah,
I don't mind Eric Jones. Remember a couple of years ago in 2022, in the next gen, Eric Jones pulled this thing in that car. So, and we were all like, "Whoa, dude! Do they have it now? You know, is this the setup that Eric Jones needs?" It wasn't, but I don't mind Eric Jones there at all. I don't think that's a bad play. Elliot, who else do you think for a D?
Yeah, maybe we can save Haley. I think Haley's worth talking about for the F's here. But Rick Ware in the D's, I don't think they've quite earned that one yet, but we'll have to see. I think we may as well just go the other legacy car, John Hunter Nemechek. They're both at decent prices this week. JHN's a little higher than I thought, 6,700. Jones at 7,400. I think they're fair in the D's here. We're seeing them run a little better in the Toyotas. I think that this will be the week where we really see, do they have the bump that 2311 and JGR have here, or are they still kind of middling in the mid pack?
Yep. Can't blame you at all for that pick there. Oh God, we are really down here already. Michael McDowell belongs in this tier, and if you want to throw his teammate Todd Gilliland in, I guess you can. Damn, dude, like they're one of these cases that are going to be, hey, is front row actually have some speed now with this new alliance, or is it just a super speedway thing? I think we're going to figure that out. But shout out to Michael McDowell because he did fuck over my William Byron bet last week, so I'm kind of mad about that. But the guy kept coming from the back. He kept getting damage on his car, kept wrecking people, and kept finding a way back to a top 10 victory. So I like the momentum for Michael McDowell and Todd Gilliland a little bit as well, I guess.
Yeah, hey, I had a buddy text me last week. You know, he watches NASCAR. You know, he's kind of in and out. So he's getting to bet it a little more this year. I get a text from him in the middle of the race. Is Todd Gilliland good now? Like, what happened? He's performed well with the front row bump at super speedways. But it'll be really curious to see, you know, kind of like with Cindric. Is Todd Gilliland worth betting, you know, for top 10s, top 15s?
Yeah.
Oh, man, it's good. It's interesting to see them have that much speed as well, right? And especially, and I think the hardest part about it is, like you mentioned, Seth, like the 2 super speedway races that we saw. It gets me excited because I'm like, okay, are we getting Gillen for top 10s potentially, McDowell, or like? But I definitely think the D is obviously appropriate here, but I just think in terms of the speed that they're showing, I'm definitely interested to see if this carries over. I think it can. I mean, it's all gonna depend. Like, we really won't know until Sunday happens. One driver I want to ask you guys what you think about is Austin Dillon, right? So he's had 2 bad races to start off the year. I feel like he's always been getting involved in wrecks, but if we're putting Kyle Busch in the A, rightfully so, it's Kyle Busch. But I feel like if RCR brings some speed, the 3 at least has to benefit a little bit from it, right? I would go D for Austin Dillon.
Yeah, you're on to something, actually. He has a top 10 here in the next gen. I looked it up. I have a bet where I wanted to fade him, and then I did see he actually has like decent stats here. Maybe he gets back on track a little bit, and RCR does generally run here. So I'm cool with Austin Dillon there. I don't really have, I don't want to play him, but like pinch comes to shove, maybe I got a couple places, Elliot.
Yeah, I mean, at 6,800 compared to some guys below him, Gregson's at 62, Barry 61, Todd G is at 59 down there. I still think we're closer to seeing Austin Dillon take over for his pop than we are to seeing him win again.
Yeah, the word on the street.
Yeah. Elliot, anyone else for D for you? Because I maybe have one thought, and that's it.
Well, I'll let you throw that out there because I have a couple I was going to throw up.
Zane Smith, 5,700. If you need a dart throw in that sub 6K range on DraftKings, I would go Zane Smith. If you don't want to play Todd Gillen at 5,900, he's going to be running the Truck Series race here. He's been good in the Truck Series as well. We don't know what he's going to do here in a Cup car, but Zane's been solid. Had a top 20 at Daytona. Kind of got caught up in some stuff last week, but I don't mind Zane Smith in the 71. But I got no one else for the C's and or the D's unless who you got, Elliot? Who are you thinking of? Are you thinking of his teammate?
No, I'm comfortable dropping to the F's, but I will throw Haley up on the board. We mentioned him earlier. Tino, if you have any thoughts on him, you can go ahead and share those in a second. It's just until we see Rick Ware have anything short of 30th place speed, I'm hesitant. But Justin Haley's, the best.
Dude, they've had the speed.
Driver.
It's the mechanical issues, bro. He was run top 10 at the Clash. He was run top 10 at Daytona, and absolutely screwed you if you played him. Like I got bit in the ass by Justin Haley 2 weeks in a row because of that. So Tino, do you like him a little bit more? Are you trusting RWR here?
So I don't trust them, but I do trust Justin Haley, right? Like he performed well at this track before, and I think a lot of people are going to potentially be surprised, but I mean that's such a hard thing to say with Rick Ware Racing, right? Like I don't even like it's based off of how little speed they have shown in every race that they've ever been in. Like to say that they turn a corner is very hard for me, but if they're gonna do it, I think it could be at this track with this driver, and they have, like you said, they have been running well. Yeah. That's I looked at that, and that's what made me think that. Yeah.
That's not a bad call out. I'm gonna be honest. You're gonna make me want to go back and play Justin Haley now. Yeah, that's Elliot. Any love for Derek Kraus in that 16? Because there's been a matchup that's kind of been taken over Twitter this week. Derek Kraus was at like plus 160 against Justin Haley. In his former team's equipment, and it's been all the bet down to even now. It's even money for Derek Kraus to beat Haley.
The only way that happens is if Haley has a mechanical failure in stage 2 and drops out of the race.
People are hammering it, bro. People are hammering it.
Derek Kraus, I mean, he just hasn't really shown me anything, even in the lower series. I pay attention to Trucks and Xfinity.
That's a random motherfucker to bring up. I'm sorry.
All Kaulig is about the money now. So he had the money. Whatever sponsor is going to be on that 16 car is his money, I'm sure.
What's the sponsor?
I don't know. I'd have to pull up the entry list here. I can take a look. I do want to throw Hocevar on the board, though.
Is it Magic City Wings? Jeez, like what's he doing down there?
Yeah, for real. I mean, I'll take a look here. But Hocevar, he showed. I was excited about him at Daytona. Gets taken out in that early wreck. Shows some more speed at Atlanta. Has a little bit of that super speedway prowess. I think he's the guy that can go out there and really start to take Spire to new levels. We saw it a little bit with LaJoy last year. Now they've got some talented drivers there, and we'll see if they can continue to build that program up also.
Hell yeah. Only other guy I want to throw on the board is Ricky Stenhouse. I think just, kind of a respect thing to
I was thinking the same thing.
I love Brad Daugherty. I need more of that guy in my fucking life. So, give me some Ricky Stenhouse on the board. Tino, anyone else that you can confidently rank on the board this week?
Well, not confidently. I mean, I think, to me, okay, so one guy popped off to me in my head was Daniel Hemrick, but I still don't really trust him. He's not in this scenario. And then another driver I saw was Chase Briscoe. Could we put him just on the board?
Yeah, he should be on the board. Yeah,
I think he's like a good enough. I think he's a good enough driver to be on the board. He was making. Well, he got into a wreck last week, but I thought he was making significant passes to get himself there last week in Atlanta. Completely different track, but I just liked what I saw out of him there.
Yeah. Throw Ryan Preece too, Elliot. Just get a little pity vote.
Yeah, the little SHR bump, because they're not great, but they're not shit boxes, and Priest is a good enough driver. The Kraus sponsor is Western States Flooring, so shout out to them for getting them in the Cup Series.
Oh yeah, good. Yeah, good on them. Thank you for that.
And now they got a shout out on the back road, so they really mean it.
Hey, that's their marketing budget at play here.
Hey,
Yeah,
I'm clipping that. I'm clipping that and sending it to them for sure.
The Western States Flooring tire series. Western States Flooring coming from a guy in New York and 2 guys in Pennsylvania. How about it?
There you go.
This is pretty typical of who we leave unranked. You know, we already mentioned
Put LaJoy. That's it.
LaJoy. All right.
He got 20th in
Really?
this race. He got 20th in this race a year ago.
Yeah. I like Corey LaJoy. So I'll say this.
Yeah.
I think I like Corey LaJoy a lot as a driver, as a guy. I've talked to him before, and he's raced well at times. But what he said about Austin Cindric really I didn't like at all. Like, and I don't know if you guys saw the clip from his podcast where they're talking about the incident between the two of them, and he said the only reason Austin Cindric is still around is because of his Daytona 500 victory. And to me, Corey, like, I don't think he has a point, and B, I feel like you need to win something if you're gonna talk about another driver like that.
Yeah.
And that to me, I don't think that's good karma for Corey either. Corey's always someone I pull for. He's my boy. On record, I like Corey LaJoy a lot.
Yeah.
I respect him, everything. But when you start badmouthing other guys, what are you finishing? Top 20 is a good thing. Come on.
Yeah, I mean, he had his chance. He was in the Hendrick number 9. And suck shit at Gateway. I mean, I'm perfectly fine talking shit about Corey LaJoy.
Hey,
You know, he's a guy. You know, he took his money and went right to Cup right away. He didn't. You know, a lot of these guys they cut their teeth in trucks and Xfinity. They move up a little bit.
yeah.
He got the Cup right. He got the Cup money. He's like, whatever. Let's just go to Cup. So you know, when he's in race winning situations, it's no surprise to me that he's not making it happen. So this is my challenge, Corey LaJoy. Go out there and shut me up and perform well. Go out there, win a race in a Spire car. But until I see it, I don't believe it. But he has a fair point about Cindric. Not only is it the Daytona 500 that's keeping him up there, it's the Tim Cindric's been the president since I've been a kid. So Austin Cindric if his name was Austin Smith, he's not getting nearly as many chances. But hey, that's how it is in racing nowadays. We just had the whole Derek Kraus bit. If you got money, you're going to be all right. And, you know, Kaz Grala, he's got money to get in the Cup Series. Harrison Burton, he's got the money. Daniel Hemrick, somehow, I don't think he has money. He keeps calling cars clean enough there. So, hey, I mean, most of these guys that aren't on the board.
Doesn't ever finish last.
There's a reason, you know.
Yeah, he doesn't finish last. He just always keeps coming back around. I think Daniel Hemrick also hasn't had a fair shot. I think because he had the A car, and then I'm wrong.
He had a
full season. He ran a full season in a Gibbs Xfinity car.
Yeah.
And just, I mean, he had a lot of bad luck.
I forgot.
He had
about
a
the
lot
other
of bad
thing.
luck
I mean,
that
he did win the
season.
championship.
I'm proud as hell of him for going for that. You know, to go out there green, white, checkered. I'm like, man, you got to move this guy out of the way. You've never won a damn race in the top 3 series. You got to make it happen. He did. Proud of him for that, but maybe it's the last time we see him in victory.
Yep. Nothing needs to be said on the 44, boys. I'm trying to avoid
we
a lot.
we got rid of that at the beginning. We don't need him now.
Yeah, let's go. Guys, I like the board. I'm going to put out a DFS article tomorrow on the site talking more about it, breaking some of these drivers down. Unfortunately, I do have to have Josh Berry in my C tier. Didn't love that, but I'll find a way to make it pretty there, Elliot. But yeah, let's go ahead.
I gave you the same reasoning as putting Gregson in the C tier, so I don't see your.
No, you're good. You're good. What do you say, guys? Let's round out the show with a little betting here on parking garage props.
Let's roll, bud. Always my favorite little drop of the week. Seth, I see you nodding your head along to it also.
Yes, sir.
The parking garage props there. All right, so we've hinted a little bit at some outrights. Who are we throwing out there in this segment for the outrights?
All right, boys. I'm going to do it. I'll take the floor. I'm going a little special outright. So you can get right now, you can get our boy Chris Bell and Max Verstappen to win 12-1 at Caesars. I usually don't like to do these, but I'm all over Chris Bell this week. We talked about it a little bit earlier, finished 5th in this race a year ago, 2nd in the fall. And he's finished top 10 in every race in the next gen era here at this track. And also 2 poles in that time. I think that's huge with Chris Bell, man. Like, you need track position at Las Vegas. He's going to have it here. And also number 2 in the next gen total speed rankings here. Number 1 in the total speed rankings in the fall race specifically. Had that late run speed. And pretty much behind Larson and all those loop metric data we're tracking: average position, laps led, driver rating. He's the second best, and at 10-1 at most books, and then 12-1 with a little sweetener with Max Verstappen winning. I'm not a huge F1 gambler. I got a couple bets out there this week, but Max Verstappen's minus 300. I think he's going to win that. So then going into Sunday with a 12-1 ticket on Chris Bell is something I want to do, boys.
Yeah, if you're going to parlay any F1, it's going to be with Max Verstappen. I'm keeping an eye on qualifying tomorrow, so maybe I'll throw some F1 money out when I finalize my Atlanta bets.
There you go. Tino, your thoughts on Chris Bell or any other outrights you're considering this week?
Christopher Bell for sure. I'm all over him, like you mentioned, and I think the Verstappen bet is super smart. I mean, you can probably get away doing that with every F1 race this season.
Yeah.
Let's be honest. Max Verstappen and anyone you want in the Cup Series, pairing them up for a nice parlay just to increase your odds, because we talk about how there were just no guarantees in racing. Well, Max Verstappen is definitely the closest thing to that. Definitely agree there. If I have one outright I want to share with you guys, it's going to be Kyle Busch. 3 top 5s in the last 3 Las Vegas races. It's his home track, sure, but he's also the current points leader, which I think, bodes well for your season, especially starting it off, with a couple of back-to-back super speedway races. That just shows that he's able to keep the car clean, race there up in the front. And oh yeah, he's racing in the truck series and there's practice. No, I don't think any other driver fares better in the Cup Series with practice other than Kyle Busch, because Kyle Busch is able to get them. He's just one of the better drivers at getting the most out of the car, figuring out what needs to be changed or done to it in order to make it perform the best to his liking. And right now we see him at earlier in this week, he was 11-1 on DraftKings specifically. Now I see him at 9-1. So in that 10-1 range, to me, I think is great value for a Chevy driver who's keeping the same consistent body and is Kyle Busch. Like, let's be real here. It's Kyle Busch. Yeah. But also the other thing I want to note is I think he has the best closing line value in this one. He can go out and potentially start top 3. We may see this value be cut in half after practice and qualifying.
Yeah. Hey, I had him at plus 1,200 on BetMGM. So he's out there for some good value. And, like I said, Kyle Busch, one of my favorites of the week for sure, going out there winning in Vegas.
We got Stan. He loves some KFB as well. Elliot, you had one other interesting outright on your card that you put on the website. Would you like to share that one as well?
Yeah, I will throw that one out. Alex Bowman is at plus 2,200. And my crazier one, I saw him at a better price, I think, on Caesars. Austin Cindric, plus 12,500 over there on Caesars. Just in case, man, just in case he's turned a corner and is going to come out there and be the best Penske driver this year. He's done well at Daytona.
Your FOMO bet of the week.
Yeah, that's hey, if you want to make some big money this week, I'm going to throw half a unit on it or something. He's already led more laps this year than he did all last year. You never know. It's worth a look.
Okay. All right. Yeah. And honestly, like, one thing I put it on Twitter earlier this week. Right now, Bet Rivers, they have 100% profit boost. I went to bet Kyle Larson and get the profit boost, take him from 4.5 to 1 to 9 to 1. And I put it on the wrong fucking bet earlier. I was doing multiple things. I screwed up. I apologize. So go over to Bet Rivers if you have a Bet Rivers account and get that 100% profit boost. You don't have to be a new user or anything. Like, you can get in on that. And like, that's something I would recommend if you do like Kyle Larson this week. We got Didi in the chat. What's up, Didi? So good to see you tonight. We appreciate you. And Donald in the chat saying he has the 2 and the 48.
Someone read my between bets. I had a couple bets in the footnotes too. I did find a way to slip Bowman in there too.
There you go. There you go. We appreciate you, Donald. Thanks for hanging out with us tonight, man. And you as well, Didi. So good to see you. Let's go to placement props then, guys. So I want to be clear. Caesars got all crazy this week, and like, shout out Caesars, because I heard in multiple states, not Pennsylvania, they didn't have top 10s and top 5s earlier in the week. They were doing over-unders for drivers. So that was super cool. I heard a lot of different people talking about that. Of course, Pennsylvania didn't have that. But we did, I don't know if you caught this, guys, but we did have these like parlayed top 10 odds. And for finding value at Las Vegas, that's what I wanted to do. My favorite one of the week that I went 1.5 units on was Kyle Larson, Christopher Bell, Ross Chastain, all in the top 10. We've talked ad nauseum about Christopher Bell. Kyle Larson, number one in just about every loop data metric from that last race we were here. Number one in the next gen total speed rankings at Las Vegas. Number one in the comp total speed rankings as well. The guy is off the charts. And when you look at Ross Chastain, his finishes at Las Vegas, 5th, 12th, 2nd, and 3rd. I think these are all top 10 drivers, and I'm willing to lay it down at plus 225, boys.
Yeah, I don't hate that at all. That's pretty good group bet there. I hadn't seen that one. One of the specials I had with the placement props, if you think all three of the 3 wide finish, the 99, the 12, and the 8 are all going to be in the top 10, that's a plus 750.
That's
obviously,
a sicko bet.
Obviously, Suarez kind of brings those odds up a little bit, but
yeah,
I don't hate it. Kyle Busch, his top 5 is at plus 190, top 10 at minus 150 at BetMGM. Even, you know me, I don't like to drink the juice that often. I'm a big plus money bets guy. I think even that Kyle Busch top 10 is worth drinking a little sip of that Tropicana for sure. Christopher Bell's top 5 is at plus 170 on Bet Rivers. Then I have a few top 10s I can throw out if we need, but Tino, I'll give the floor to you for some placement props.
Well, you said my Christopher Bell top 5. I like that a lot. And I think the one thing to know with him and Kyle Larson is they both have 3 top 10s in the last 4 races. Well, the one finish that they didn't was the crash that they got involved in when Kyle Larson and Bubba Wallace wrecked, and it took Christopher Bell with them too. So those 2 drivers have been consistent at this track. I think anything with them, I'm even like this one I'm not really interested in touching just because the value is so low and it is for a top 3. But Kyle Larson at plus 125 for a top 3 finish. I don't want to touch it because everything needs to go right for that to happen, right?
Yeah.
And Kyle Larson was 90 degrees facing the wall and then ended up saving it last time for the win. But that's just something to note with his value there. Another driver could potentially see, we mentioned the Christopher Bell as well. I'm taking a look at the board here. What do you guys think about a potential Brad Keselowski top 5 at plus 180? I just think the value is not there for me though.
Yeah, it's tough. I will say about the Larson top 3, because I've been staring at it all week, Tino. I've been like, I should probably just jump on it. But what I did instead is I took him down to top 5 in the Cup Series, and I went Kyle Busch top 3 in the Truck Series and parlayed that together over at Caesars. I didn't even know you could still parlay because we saw that guy hit $1 million a couple years ago at Daytona. So I was like, I didn't even think I could parlay finishing props. But Rod, our other co-host on the program, on his other show earlier this week, NASCAR gambling show, they were over there, and he actually said you can kind of go cross series there on Caesars still. So I did that. That is plus 114 for Kyle Busch, top 3 in the Truck Series, Kyle Larson, top 5 in the Cup Series. And Kyle Busch has finished first or second in all 6 of his truck races here. The only time he didn't in his career was 2001, and he got 9th. So, wow. How do you feel about that, Tino? Would you get behind that? You get a little more leniency with Kyle Larson as a top 5, and then you're getting Kyle Busch for, I don't want to say an automatic because racing, anything can happen, but a really good feeling top 3 for the trucks.
No, I like that a lot. I think the only driver that is capable of beating Kyle Busch in a truck, especially at least this weekend, would be Christopher Bell.
Yep.
So and that's only one guy. So there we go. We have him for a top 3. I like that a lot. Well, I actually was preparing for the show today, guys, and to bring some stats with you. One that I did like, but it wasn't able to be parlayed on DraftKings, so maybe it could be on other books, would be either a Kyle Busch or Christopher Bell to sweep in the trucks in the Cup Series. I think both drivers, based off of how they race in each series, has a good potential to do so. I think Kyle Busch to win in trucks and also win in the Cup Series, I mean, with him being 10-1 right now amongst most books, probably boost him up a fair amount. I mean, obviously he's the favorite in trucks, but you get a little bit more value there for your outright for Kyle Busch in the Cup Series, and same thing with Christopher Bell as well. So that would be one that I'd look at for a parlay with them.
Yep, they do have that on the books at Caesars for Kyle Busch at plus 1905.
Wow, really?
Oh, yeah. I'm taking that. Yeah,
that's what I had earlier. Yeah. So
wow, that's okay. Maybe I'm going to get invested. I didn't want to break my heart again with getting invested in Kyle Busch, but
no, that one's worth it. That one was on my specials board. So
I like that.
Huge.
Good shout out from both of you. And yeah, I'm sure if over at Caesars, you could probably do that for Christopher Bell, and even because he's 6-1 in the Truck Series too. So you could get some really good value there. Elliot, anything else you want to add here for placement props before we move on to matchups and groups?
Yeah, none of these top 10s I have on the board stand out really. Bowman plus 100 at Caesars, Eric Jones plus 200 DraftKings, Michael McDowell plus 300 DraftKings also. A couple of more long shot top 10 guys, but I don't really have a whole lot to back them up. It's just stuff you see that's like, oh, maybe that's a good one.
Well, let's go ahead. Let's go to matchups and groups. And Tino, do you have anything out there? We've been seeing a lot of interesting ones, a lot of shitbox matchups this week. If you want to bet
Yeah.
on these guys from 20th to 30th, there's been a lot of options, and we've been clamoring that for years here on the back road. Did you find anything in that market or maybe a group that you enjoyed?
Well, they weren't a back marker type of driver by any means
Okay.
for the one that stood out to me the most. So my matchups here on DraftKings, and we have Tyler Reddick against Alex Bowman. Who would have finished higher? Reddick is minus 140 and Bowman's plus 105. So to me,
Wow.
especially as much as we talked about Alex Bowman, plus 105 to finish better than Tyler Reddick, I like that the best out of almost all of the head-to-heads that I've seen so far this week. I think that's just to give him plus money is just, I don't understand that at all, really, especially when you're comparing him to a Toyota driver like Tyler Reddick, especially at this track. I don't know what they're thinking here, and I think this could be a good one to capitalize on.
Yeah, you guys will be shocked to know that that's on my card also. Plus 115 over at BetMGM.
Ooh, okay.
Nice.
Okay.
Oh,
Elliot,
even better odds there, too.
What else do you have, Elliot? Anything else in matchups and groups?
So this matchup I have, it's a little ballsier, but these are guys that are probably going to be top 5. But I have Christopher Bell over Kyle Larson at plus 140 on Bet Rivers.
Oh,
that's a good enough number that I think it's worth the punt.
Oh, man. We got Alfred saying he's on the same Bowman over Reddick. Nice. Man, I would if you guys are all on that, I thought that'd be bet down by now, but good call out there. The only one I want to throw out is Austin Cindric is Group H. He's in Group H right now on Caesars plus 195. He is the favorite there. I went 0.6 of a unit on that. Austin Dillon is in that group plus 200. Josh Berry 3-1 and JHN 2.5-1. And I'm honestly going to throw JHN and Josh Berry out of that group. I just don't know if JHN isn't a rookie in this Cup Series, but he kind of feels like one. I just don't know if those guys can compete. So I really feel like I'm getting 2-1 value here on Austin Cindric or Austin Dillon. We touched on Dillon earlier as you kind of brought him up, Tino. Like, he is a little bit better here than you would think. He does have a top 10, but it's just the vibes right now in that number 3 camp. Just feeling not very good. They didn't make the Clash. Bad Daytona, bad Atlanta. Some of that's bad luck, but some of that's on them as well. So, and then looking at Austin Cindric, we touched on him earlier, finished 6th in this race a year ago. And the year before in the fall race, he also scored stage points in both of those stages in the fall, and then led 8 laps in that one. So I'm all right with Austin Cindric. And a little nugget, also top 3 all time, not just active, top 3 all time at this track. Austin Cindric in starting position, 8.25. So if you want to throw a little dart throw on maybe a pull bet too, Austin Cindric. But yeah, I'm down on Group H here, plus 195 at Caesars.
Yeah, that's not bad. I saw a lot of people made money on the McDowell pull bet last week. I saw a tweet in the morning. A lot of people getting down on that. Maybe I should have some money on that. I had to go to work. I went to work, middle of the work day. McDowell wins the poll. I'm like, God damn it, I knew I should have thrown a bit on that. But congrats to everybody who had that. The qualifying bets are definitely worth a watch. They're even much more of a crapshoot than the race bets. But hey, when you get one, you can hit one pretty big. I had Group D over at Caesars, just finding any way to bet Kyle Busch. He's a plus 200 over Ryan Blaney, who's a plus 180 in that group. Martin Truex Jr. a plus 210. Chase Elliott a plus 350. I think the 8 car is a lock in that bet or in that group.
What was that? Those odds there?
Kyle Busch is a plus 200.
Okay.
Blaney a plus 180. Yeah, okay.
I like that. I like that call. I think Blaney's his toughest competition for the upside there. Anything else for you, Ellie, or do you want to jump into some special markets here?
I'm ready for specials if you guys are.
Yeah, let's go ahead. Tino, did you have anything for this, whether it's something off in the Cup Series or one of these other series here?
Well, I don't know. I see, to me, the only one that I could really consider would be the Truck Series and going Kyle Busch and Christopher Bell there. Xfinity is where things get a little more iffy for me there, just based off of how the race has gone. I mean, we've seen Austin Hill just dominate the first 2. You know what? I got one for you guys. Here. That would be a Sammy Smith. That'd be Sammy Smith. I think Sammy Smith could have the potential to go out here. And we've seen Junior Motorsports cars. I mean, Josh Berry go and win a race at Las Vegas. They've been strong in the past there. And I think a Sammy Smith could have a nice potential, or like a Brandon Jones. Those 2 drivers where they have the value because they haven't won yet. And I think if we can capitalize on that there, it would be on the board for me for sure.
Okay. All right, Elliot. Anything else for you here as we look across different markets and different series?
Yeah, so I like to take a peek at the manufacturer to win bets, and usually my strategy with these is whoever's got the highest odds, go with them. Ford's at plus 290, which was a bit of a contrast over the Chevy Toyota numbers, which I don't have in front of me, but oftentimes I see those, I'm like, that could be some good value. And I remember last year Toyota a couple of times ended up hitting on those. They also have a bet out that you can bet on the margin of victory, which I thought was interesting.
I saw that.
I'm sure that's been up a couple of weeks, and I just missed it last week. So I mentioned earlier, this would be a hell of a week for more of a snooze fest, not a super duper close razor thin finish. The margin of victory odds for a 3 to 10 second victory is plus 600. If you think it'll be a little closer, either from 1 to 2 seconds or 2 to 3 seconds from the leader to second place, that's a plus 650.
Wow. Okay. I don't mind that value there at all. We got Alfred saying Allgaier top 3 plus 150 looks decent. Okay. I don't mind
hate it.
Yeah, we like JGR or Junior Motorsports over here, so we can get behind it for sure. All right, I'll throw one more out there, a little crazy one. I actually did do like a whole truck card this week, which I usually don't, but I love when the Cup Series guys go down. I think you can get some value both on the incumbent Truck Series full-time drivers and then also on those Cup Series drivers. So I'm gonna go cross sport again. I'm gonna go Lewis Hamilton podium finish and Kyle Larson top 3 plus 680 on Caesars. And listen, like you got to things have to go right for Larson. We've talked about him ad nauseum tonight. And then Lewis Hamilton over in F1. There's a lot of smoke in the Mercedes camp right now. Like a lot of shit's going down over there, it seems like. But he still has the 4th best odds to win this race here. Where is it? Dubai? Is that where? No, I don't even know. I don't even know where it fucking is. Like Bulgarian.
It's in Bahrain, I think. Bahrain Grand Prix.
Yeah,
so.
I don't. Yeah, okay.
Yeah. NASCAR keeps it all in the U.S. at least for now. Maybe we'll get Canada and Mexico on the schedule next year, but
yeah,
not quite as much world traveling.
And when it comes to Lewis Hamilton, like I know the guy, everyone kind of thinks he's like past his prime a little bit, but he does have 5 wins here, 11 podiums, and aside from last year's 5th place finish in this race, he's finished on the podium every year since 2015. I was like an impubescent 17-year-old, or I hit puberty at that point, but I was not very cognitive at that point. So I'm gonna go with Lewis Hamilton, restore greatness here. Kyle Larson, I have like a 0.15 unit on it, nothing crazy. Yeah, that's what I got there. Anything else from either of you guys we haven't touched on?
Yeah, I mean, I don't hate Hamilton there if you got to go for someone other than Verstappen, but it's hard to know too. In F1, they change things up a lot more often.
Yeah,
than they do in NASCAR. Every couple of years you have body changes.
Yeah,
these guys almost crank out entire new setups every year. So really, you don't quite know until you get through those first couple of races. What it sounds like, this year I'm trying to dive into the F1, try and make a little more money from it.
Yeah,
try and bring it up here a little more often. So may as well diversify the investments a little bit.
Fuck it. You got to send it, man. Lewis Hamilton, podium finish, baby. Kyle Larson, top 3.
We'll see how many races I can wake up for at 3 in the morning when they start to get difficult.
Yeah,
time to the US. That's a different story.
Well, before we get going, guys, first of all, I want to shout out everyone in the chat. Great to see Royal, Miami Mike, Derek, Stan, Eric, Spry Sheep, Dee, Donald, Alfred, everyone. Thank you guys so much for all the great comments. We greatly appreciate it as we continue to grow IBT Media over here. It's been a bunch of fun tonight. And Tino, man, thanks so much for joining us, dude. You are a ball of electricity and a ball of knowledge as well, dude. Tell us where we can support you and how we can best find you throughout the remainder of the 2024 NASCAR season, my friend.
Well, thank you very much. Try to be the best I can for you guys here and everywhere else there on the social media platforms. You can find me at Tino Pattigno, Pattigno. The G is silent, like real G's in lasagna there. So you can find me. That's where I'm at there. Posting content every day, every week about NASCAR and betting, everything else in between. So you can find me there. On SiriusXM NASCAR Radio, channel 90. I give my best bet segment every week. So you can tune in there as well.
Oh, yeah.
On the Sports Wrap, I make some appearances there. You can find that on your local streaming services there. Front Stretch, I host the Through the Gears podcast, which is our fantasy and NASCAR betting show as well. So we got to have you guys on the show for that one too, and I'll be there every week giving you guys some best picks and some best props, some best plays, everything you need to know for the NASCAR betting site. I have my own podcast, Tino Pattigno here, so you can tune in there as well. So honestly, just look me up, Tino Pattigno, you'll find something, and I'll be talking with the gold jacket and everything like that.
1% Italian, Tino. 1% Italian,
1%.
Tino.
1%.
Elliot, tell everyone what we got cooking on the website, man.
Yeah, I mean, you can find we're keeping the articles consistent this year. I've got my between bets every week. Seth will bring out the DFS content. Always plenty of ways to figure out the best ways to hit some money here. And we're throwing out tweets every once in a while. Seth, you're good at picking up some of those trends you see after practice and qualifying. Obviously, we don't have another live show. Things can change, so keep an eye on our Twitter feeds for things like that. And trying to get some more engagement over there with NASCAR stuff on the main Twitter account as well. Throwing out that how'd your bets do poll over there after that wild finish. So, any way you guys can engage with us is super awesome. It's great to see everybody, in the chat and everything like that. Thanks for watching. Seth, any final thoughts here before we sign off for the eve?
No, just enjoy Las Vegas, guys. This is a great sports weekend. As we touched on it, NFL Combine ripping. We got F1 coming back. All 3 NASCAR series in gear. So just hang out, enjoy it, be safe this weekend, be kind to one another. And if you want to support us, easiest way, hit that subscribe button, come back, hang out with us again. And guys, you know what to do. Until next time, keep it in between. Thank you.